I'm really thrilled today to have a core team from Time Inc. with us. These are two folks who live and breathe the distribution of content into multiple environments. They're going to touch on the two main things that Susan was talking about from media. One is social media and how it's a driver of brand and engagement, and video. So joining us now is Callie Schweitzer. Why don't you come on up, guys? Callie Schweitzer is Editorial Director for Audience Strategy at Time Inc. And Ian Orefice, he's Senior Executive Producer for Time Inc. Video. Come and sit down, guys, and we'll just chat from up here. I'm going to move.
Yeah, come on over.
Morning. All right. So good morning, guys. Thanks. We're going to break this out into two parts. We've got Callie's part first, where we're going to talk about how you're approaching the relationship with your readers across all these different platforms, et cetera. And then Ian has some great examples of what's happening, in the video studio world at Time Inc. There's a lot going on there. So my question for Callie is, I want you to give an overview of how you're working to build preference with among new and existing audiences, and how you're managing all these different social 1,000 points of light. What are you doing content-wise, and how do you get the right data back so that you know what content is best suited for which platform? And if you want, you can go ahead and surf through your examples.
Okay.
First of all, actually tell us what you do. That'd be a great thing also.
Sure.
What are you guys focused on right now? Go ahead, Callie.
It's funny, when you originally asked us that question and we were talking ahead of this, we were talking about how our visions are so shared, despite the fact that we work on different sides of the company. And really, our shared vision is to be wherever our readers are, to be where our consumers are, to meet them in the way that they want to be met, whether that's on tablet, mobile, desktop, and in any format on any platform. And so one of the things that we're talking about today is really social and how that plays in, and how we've catered our content to fit every platform imaginable.
And so I oversee video programming and production for our brands at Time Inc. And one of the things we have to do, to echo what Callie said, is make sure we're creating the right content for the right platform. The way we philosophically approach a 2-hour documentary on TV is very different than the Snapchat audience, and they're both very important. So there was a debate, I think that's still going on, of are you creating content and sharing that content across all platforms, or are you creating specific content for each platform? And for us right now, we're really leaning towards, at least at the least case scenario, is customizing that content for the specific platform. And most people may know this, Time Inc. is moving downtown, and one of the things we have to do when we're in the process right now of building a new production facility is to make sure we're building the technology that can actually achieve both of those goals. Because it's different technology and a different approach to production when we're doing TV shows versus videos for Snapchat.
Yep. So I want to kind of cue up what Callie's going to talk about. A lot of what the focus of this session is about the distributed web, which means basically how do you connect with your readers, your consumers, in a lot of places that you don't necessarily own. And so Callie, that's kind of your world. It's like the big content dark star in a lot of ways is social. So why don't you show us, like, how are you thinking about and weighing and prioritizing all that you're doing, and doing it in a brand consistent way?
Absolutely. So we've always been a company that really believes in incubation and experimentation. And so we have been launch partners on Google AMP, on Facebook Instant Articles, on Twitter Moments, on Snapchat Discover. And so I'm just going to walk through some of the examples of how Time Inc. has experimented on different platforms in using all of our access and the content that we have to shape how our readers find us. So let's see if this works. Okay. So first, I'm hoping this works. that is an example of a video that has 19 million views on Facebook. That is the second most viewed video in Time Inc. history on Facebook, specifically. The number one is actually cauliflower pizza, which is very interesting to me.
It cost $68 to create. So if you look at how expensive video production is, that video and the production approach was really created for that world that it was going to live in.
Up in the studios upstairs, in the food studios?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was down in Birmingham.
And I think that it's such a good example of something that's so irresistible. It plays into everything you know about the Facebook newsfeed. You're standing in line somewhere, scrolling through your phone. You don't have sound. You're not looking to see a talking head interview. But you're scrolling through, and all of a sudden, you're looking at Oreo cookie balls, which I'm sorry to tempt you all at 9 a.m. It's such a perfect example of something that works. And I think something that's also really important is that on Facebook, we always include a call to action at the end of every video. So essentially you can see here, for more recipes, check out southernliving.com. On the Facebook embed in the newsfeed, you can click through to get the recipe. And that's something where, everybody always talks about the gamble between owned and operated versus going distributed. And I think that's a perfect example where we're encouraging our readers to come back and see more and to dig deeper. And hopefully we've given them compelling enough content that they want to do that.
And another thing on the production, you're going to hear this a lot. I'm going to say giant production dork, so apologies. The term volume agnostic. So that video, though it's more fun with the music bed, you don't need the music. So whether you're on the bus or you're watching on your phone, in class, if you are in college or wherever you are, we create the video in a way where you don't need the sound just amplifies it. And that's really important when you're talking about mobile and smaller screens.
Mm-hmm. So this next example is from Twitter. Wallpaper, which is a UK property of Time Inc. that we've just brought over to the US and launched in print, it has this amazing cover photo shoot video that is something that is very behind the scenes, and we wouldn't necessarily put it on the website. However, it's such great social video, and it's something that, you can't not watch this video of this dog and this cover shoot, and it's a perfect example of taking this extra content that we have and repurposing it in a new place where people want to engage with that kind of content. On Snapchat, as I said earlier, People was one of the launch partners for Snapchat Discover. So we've done all different kinds of features and videos and all kinds of programming specifically for Snapchat and Snapchat Discover, where, again, this is content created exclusively for Snapchat. You don't click through back to People. And for us, the audience there was just such a compelling offering that it was a no-brainer to be involved. On the other side of the spectrum, we've also done a lot of sort of UGC with Snapchat, where Elizabeth Dias, who's Time's religion reporter, was out. She was on the papal plane, and she was then out on the Pope's trip with him in the U.S., and she was covering for Time on Snapchat. So if you're following Time on Snapchat, you're seeing Elizabeth go around and travel with the Pope, or you're watching Zeke Miller, who's traveling with the candidates on the 2016 election campaign, or you're with Eliana Doctorman at Comic-Con. And we love this idea of using these platforms to give our readers extra behind-the-scenes access that they wouldn't have anywhere else.
And whether that's videos or still, there's an expectation where it's okay if it's a lower quality video. It's okay if it's shot from your phone, because they're not expecting 60 minutes. They're expecting a reporter on a plane that happened to shoot video for their phone in a vertical way, and that's an awesome experience.
Yeah.
Was that UGC example on the left with the
Yes.
notification? Yeah.
Yeah.
With the annotation?
Yes. So on Tumblr, EW did something really fun with Tumblr's new Answer Time feature, which is sort of like a Q&A. They had Tom Hanks take over their Tumblr, which they called Tumblr, and he answered questions in the lead up to Bridge of Spies. And so they did a really fun promotion around it and had all sorts of exclusive content on Tumblr. And it's just a great example of EW leveraging its access to Tom Hanks to find readers on different platforms. On Instagram, one of my favorite examples here is Real Simple, which has launched its Women IRL campaign, where it says, counter to what everyone puts on Instagram and the perfection of your new baby and your amazing summer traveling. photos. Why not bring some kind of light to what it's actually like to be a woman on Instagram? And so using the hashtag WomenIRL, they post pictures and ones that they've found from their audience, posting, what it's like to be the mom of this kid who's having a temper tantrum leaning against the refrigerator. And they've seen amazing success with that. On Periscope, Food and Wine had a chef come into the office and they periscoped from the kitchen his making gnocchi from scratch. And then they did something really fun where they cut up the video into a gift set. And so on foodandwine.com, you could then watch the step-by-step breakdown of how to make gnocchi from scratch. And so you have two ways of experiencing it. You could have experienced it on Periscope live, or you could experience it on Food and Wine where it's going to last and where you can go back to it and see it again.
And I think there's a misconception sometimes with Periscope about it's only used as a live tool. There's a reporter with the refugee crisis in Europe where they tried to show for 60 minutes what that was actually like. The live streams weren't that meaningful, but in a 48-hour period, the traffic was wild. And Periscope is just it's really a great technology just for capturing that type of raw content. The live element is cool, but it's not a mandate for success there.
Because it is so immediate, though,
Right.
How do you guys, this is a kind of classic question of UGC. You've got these brands you're trying to maintain, but you also want to have freedom with your audiences, right? So how do you enable a Periscope user ultimately to participate in the Food and Wine program?
I mean, from a UGC perspective, when you have such established brands, I think it's about branding where the content is coming from. Right? I think people understand and expect what UGC is, but there should be a distinction between this was captured from a Time Inc. reporter.
And you'll mark that? You'll flag that?
We'll be able to identify where it comes from. The other thing we're trying to do, so take Sports Illustrated for instance, we launched something called Campus Rush, which is really just a way to add on-campus student reporters to the Sports Illustrated arsenal around the country. So we identify 50 kids at each school. We mark 25 schools, and we now have 50 additional reporters. They get to be credited from Sports Illustrated, and they're creating a ton of UGC content, but it's that kind of in-between space, true UGC and an official reporter.
So the next example is from Pinterest. This is also one of my favorite videos. Pinterest.
You like food?
I love food. I love food, especially talking about desserts at 9 in the morning. One experimentation that we've been seeing a lot of success with is using video on Pinterest, and specifically knowing that food is so popular on Pinterest. It's one of the top categories. A brand like Cooking Light, a brand like Food and Wine has had a lot of success with posting step-by-step how-tos or recipes or videos of how to make specific foods that are pretty irresistible.
So, Ian, on the video side, back in the April Newfronts, Time Inc. announced that you'd had 1 billion video streams and that UVs, unique viewers, were spending an average of 27 minutes a month with video content. You've ramped up the new studios downtown. 22 brands back then are producing video content targeted for all audiences. We're going to show a couple of examples that you brought, but after we show these examples, if you could talk about how do you approach the development and growth of video so it's actually a revenue driver?
Sure. I think let's actually start that discussion first, and then we can get into the videos. Everyone understands the importance of video, or at least is starting to understand the importance of video from a traffic perspective and a revenue perspective. The trap we fall into a lot, and I don't think Time Inc. is alone here, is, well, we just want more video. And the most popular question, and some of the Time Inc. sales guys are in the back, and they are not guilty of this, but we get asked this question a lot: how much does a video cost? And that could be $100,000 for a 10-minute video, or it could be $68 for some Oreo balls. And I think it's trying to really understand that all video is not created equal. And when we're looking at mobile-first video or Snapchat or whatever the platform is, we need to build production and business revenue plans that match what that platform can deliver. And the production format has to match that. And if we don't create unique approaches and unique budgets for each platform, the economics will break down across the board. So we've seen great success, and Sports Illustrated is probably the brand creating the most content for Time Inc. Sports Illustrated this year will create somewhere between 10 and 12,000 videos in 1 year. That's an astronomical number when you think of where Sports Illustrated was even 2 years ago. Right. And that video, we have a few clips today we're going to show from SI Films. So think of that on the high end of documentary filmmaking. And then we have a team that's covered 7 days a week that will create 20 videos a day that has a completely different business model. And when you're looking at video, the thing that we're trying to stress is we really need to create, to the question of how we make revenue and money, we have to create economic models and approaches that are right for the platform, and the cost of production has to back that model. So we launched Sports Illustrated Films, which I think is our first. So we launched Sports Illustrated Films. This publicly, we announced it at the New Fronts, and the website just went live a couple months ago. Underdogs is the flagship program for Sports Illustrated. It's a Hard Knocks, Friday Night Lights of high school football. It's a real-life version of Friday Night Lights. It's a program we're very passionate about, so we're going to show a clip and then talk about one of the most important things, which is not actually creating the content. A lot of people can create good content, but how do you actually find the audience to watch that content?
Right.
I want everybody to listen to me. I don't know if y'all remember the 60s riots. 20 to 25 K9s intimidating our fans because they really didn't want us up here.
Lower these prices and give us better jobs and all this money.
So now they changed games to daylight games. What's that tell you? What type person do they think you are? I tell you, they think you're undisciplined. That's the first thing. They think you're uneducated. That's the second thing. They think you're a thug. That's the third thing. Are we gonna buy into their stereotypes? Are we gonna buy into what they think? No, sir. See, I take this one personal. And don't give me that dumbass look. Because I want to look that you ready to damn play for football. I'm tired of being disrespected in this damn country. They move up this damn hill because they can't wear these colors. Because they can't outplay you. They can't outplay you. If they stay here, they will sit the goddamn bench. So they run up the goddamn hill and try to be you.
Not a yelling match, it's a football game. Not a yelling match, it's a football game. All right? Let's go. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Left leg go, left leg go.
Slightly different than the Oreo balls. So when you look at something like that, and we are biasedly proud of the production and the storytelling, but there are a lot of people doing great content. So how do we take something like that and get people to watch it? The first thing is attract the community of high schoolers that are connected to that school. When you're talking about a video of storytelling, they have a built-in audience, and we need to reach into the fans of high school football and reach into the social communities of high school football and make sure that this content is accessible to them. We can't just put it online and expect people to come to Sports Illustrated. One of the best stories of underdogs in that example is the first episode we ever did was the school in DC, underprivileged school, dirt field, and the coach starts off the episode tearing apart a few players verbally, and we thought maybe we went too far and we pushed the envelope a little bit too far and it was too racy. The principal called the next morning after we aired it, and she was silent on the phone, and then she was crying on the phone, and my heart sank because I think we screwed that up and went a little bit too far. She got to work that day, and there were hundreds of people lined up outside the school to donate money to the school to build them a football field. That moment shared on Facebook to that community spread across the entire high school football community. And when you're doing documentary programming, it's expensive to make, and we need to make sure that you're finding the audience that can watch it. The next example. So Scott Kelly is in space for 1 year. He's the longest U.S. astronaut to ever be on the International Space Station. So we have a series that Jonathan Woods who heads up Time Video, is producing. It's called A Year in Space. It's 10 episodes online, anywhere between 10 and 15 minutes each. And when you think of a mobile audience, watching a 10-minute documentary on your phone is probably not the best experience. So what we try to do and utilize, this is a Twitter example, when every episode comes out the day before, we'll cut different versions for Instagram, for Snapchat, for Twitter. So this is I think it's 45 seconds or so example of the video that we released on Twitter.
Двигатели первой второй степени работают нормально. Есть планы нарастания перегрузки.
And now aboard the International Space Station.
So again, we're taking longer form content and we're trying to customize it to make sure that it works for a mobile audience. That story is, we just released the first episode where you see his first day on the space station. He's there for a year. It personally just blows my mind. But so that's really what we're trying to do, is make sure that video is right for the platform. And when we have production that we've put more money into and more time into, that we are recustomizing that content to work for various platforms, whether you're watching on our Roku app or you're watching on your phone or your tablet.
And to your question earlier, we're very carefully watching the data, and one of the gifts of working at a company with so many brands is that we are sharing the learnings across the entire company. So what we learn from A Year in Space, we can apply to Underdogs, that we can apply to another brand's franchise, and that's something that has been enormously helpful, is just having those shared learnings with such massive scale.
Right. So when you talk about scale, especially in digital media, it's about, ultimately being meaningful for advertisers, right? Mm-hmm. We haven't seen, and actually in the next session that follows this, we'll be talking a lot about the monetization model that accompanies video. What's the right ad that actually carries with content? But what have you guys learned? I mean, together, you're tied to the hip in a way. The scale that you can bring on production becomes the driver of all this great storytelling. We know, from Mag Media's social media report that this is what is really driving engagement on social media. It's the sort of untold secret is that magazine media is kicking ass as a content creator and provider. But again, it's like they're ultimately making the money on the content that you're creating. How are you guys kind of locking arms and figuring out more ways to monetize?
We work very closely with our sales team.
High five, yeah.
And I think the same thing is not every experience is meant for a 30-second pre-roll.
Right.
I mean, when you do a 45-second video on Twitter or even SIWire, which are creating 60-second videos, 20 of them a day, we go out to the marketplace with a customized sponsor opportunity. If we just go out there with traditional 30-second pre-rolls, it sucks for the advertiser, and because the viewer doesn't actually want it, it sucks for the viewer, and everyone loses. So I think the same approach we take to building content, we are trying to also work with the advertisers there to say, what is the right implementation of your brand and your initiative in that space?
Yeah, I mean, we want to take our storytelling abilities from content to advertising. I think we've done that really successfully, and it's just about finding new ways of doing it in all of these different formats and making sure that the value is there for both the advertiser and for the consumer.
And, native in that space, I think, is a way that we've also started to separate ourselves a little bit. A lot of our advertising campaigns will come in now, and they like the storytelling approach we did with Underdogs. They don't necessarily want to do it on that school. They'd like it done on a story that is either their company or right for the adjacency to the editorial that they're sponsoring around. So we're able to take the storytelling DNA that Time Inc. has always been founded on and also extend into that space.
I want to leave a little bit of time for questions. I have the first question. It's actually to your sales guy up there. Could you raise your hand?
It's Saul.
Saul.
Saul. So Saul, I wish we had a mic. Or actually, do we have a mic? So here's my question to Saul. So this is astounding content. And you could imagine a lot of advertisers being excited about this. Following up what Susan said about the whole driver to mobile, are you selling, when you go into a big brand advertiser, are they asking for mobile or are they looking for integration across all these different screens and even including print, et cetera? Is integrated advertising happening or are you selling things still in a pretty discrete way platform-wise?
Well, the answer is both. They're asking for fully integrated buys, integrated campaigns that stem across all of our platforms. But mobile, I would say, in about 70% of the RFPs we get is called out specifically. One, because a lot of our clients they want to leverage the mobile platform because they know that it's so popular and. With the explosive growth of video on mobile over the past couple of years, they're trying to put a lot more resources into leveraging those audiences. But also, if they know our story at Time Inc., we have about 70% of our audience is now on mobile. We have over 80 million users who are accessing our mobile sites on a monthly basis. And Callie has the social numbers, which are predominantly, I think, about 88% mobile usage. And we're reaching, between Facebook and Twitter, is about 64 million users following our brands.
180 million total.
I'm sorry?
180 million total.
Thank you.
Across all.
Thank you. So it's incredible reach that we're able to deliver on the mobile platform. So we have a lot of clients who are actually asking for a certain percentage of their buy to be pushed onto the mobile platform and a certain percentage to desktop. So they want both platforms, but they do want to see a split and make sure that they're getting enough presence on mobile to reach those audiences.
Mm-hmm. Are you, for those campaigns, when it includes a social program, say, was Oreos, for instance, actually a partner was Nabisco a partner in that campaign?
I don't believe so, right? I think that was just an editorial.
It's just an awesome
editorial. Yeah.
It's an awesome treat.
Yeah.
But it kind of begs the question. It's like, okay, when you do an integration with a sponsor, are you selling that on an impression basis, organically, or how does that get sold?
Sure, so I'll take that one.
Come on down.
Come over here. Got room.
All right, so I realize people are probably trying to turn their heads backwards. All right. Now let's talk and walk.
Next time, we're just going to get the sales guys up here.
This is Solomon Mash. He's a Virgo.
All right.
I don't know if that's true, by the way.
No, not at all. But go with it. Basically we when we sell these programs, we have a bunch of different models that we sell against. It depends on how the advertiser wants to be integrated in. We have heavier sponsor integrations that we call active integrations, and those sometimes are purchased in a way where we're guaranteeing views and making sure that the advertiser gets enough. They get enough reach and scale just off of the content that we're creating. In other cases, it's more passive sponsorships where we're offering sort of added value logo placements, ways for the advertiser to show presence around an editorial series that we create. It's our job to make sure, and these guys' job to make sure that we deliver those views organically, and the advertiser has media surrounding it that they pay for.
And we have
different models combined.
And we have quite a few smart debates in terms of where that line is. If Oreo came to us and said, we'd like you to do a series of videos about Oreo, even though it's great food, we have a genuine debate about whether that is editorial content or whether we would need to, as a journalistically based company, tell the viewers that this is content from our sponsors. Even though we'll create both, we need to be upfront. The viewers are smart and our audience is smart, and we just need to be upfront and clear with them.
And to that point, we actually have a model that we call sponsored plus branded. So we have advertisers that want to do branded content where we're creating content on their behalf that represents their brands. We have other clients who want to do sponsorships and surround the editorial content that we're creating. But then we have a lot that want to do both. So we have a model we call Sponsored Plus Branded, where we have sponsorships around this editorial content that we've got. And then as part of that, we're creating additional sponsored episodes or branded episodes that are extensions of those series, where the client gets more control, more ability to weave in their brand, and they walk away with ownable content that they can take with them for their own channels.
Great. Thanks, Saul. We can see why you're a sales guy. That was great. Thank you. Thanks. Any other questions before we move on to video on steroids? Leo.
Yeah. One question. I'm Leo Scullin with the MMA. Oh, hi. You just briefly alluded to your native program and how you might do native video. I wish you could elaborate a little bit more on the challenges that you face in that area and how you've overcome them so far.
Yeah, I mean, the challenges with any production, I think there are a few challenges. If I had to kind of rank them, is first understanding what is native and defining what native is, so we go into it with the right parameter. If the sponsor of that video is going to have Final Cut and creative notes, that is native video. At the same time, native video doesn't mean an ad. Uncle Drew was one of the best native videos in the history of online video, and it was from Pepsi. And you didn't necessarily realize it was even from Pepsi. People want good content, and I don't necessarily think they care if it's native or traditional editorial. They just need to know what it is. So we need to define whether it's native or not, and then still make great content, make content that people want to watch. The best commercials in the world is technically native or branded entertainment or whatever you'd like to call it, but they're still great content. People love watching the commercials. So in that order, I think we need to do it. And the production, to our earlier point, the production model and the revenue is different because the cost of production is much higher in the native world. So figuring that part out is a bit tricky too.
All right, one more question.
Sorry, for the branded content situation, what are the native vehicles you guys are using to drive the users to that video or to that placement? Is it just native posts? Is it newsletters or social? Like, what's your journey getting there?
All of the above, but clearly labeled. So SI Overtime is a good example. Sports Illustrated actually created a branded studio called that Sports SI Overtime, and we did a series with Chevy, and it was great content that is put in editorial and promoted from editorial placements on the site, but it's just labeled as sponsored from. The other thing is, if the client is thinking in their best interest as well, which we try to help them do, they have massive followings too. So Doers, we did a great series with that was native. It did terrific on YouTube through the Doers following. So we really try to leverage, again, whether it's underdogs or whether it's Doers, where is the audience that wants to watch that video and how do we reach them and how do we create social campaigns and distribution strategies to find specific audiences. Most videos have a specific audience. So we need to create a strategy to find that person.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to jump into the next
Cool.
session. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for doing this.
Callie, thanks so much.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.